Hey everyone, Grant here for the Flame Learning channel. In part 3 of looking at batch paint in Flame 2018, you'll learn how you can edit paint strokes on the canvas. Almost every property can be edited as well as animated, and this opens up a whole range of functional and creative opportunities. These features are not footage specific, so you can use your own media to follow along. I have already connected some 32-bit media into batch paint, and I have created 3 squares using a solid brush. As a reminder, we covered the new paint types in the first parts of this series, and it should be easy to replicate this example. Now the workflow to edit a brush stroke starts with switching to the Edit menu. You can do this by either clicking on the button or swiping at the bottom of the screen. You can only edit the brush strokes when you are in edit mode. Now it is possible to edit most brush stroke settings. However, I just want to point out that some values have grayed out. For example, the brush type and a few other parameters. When you get a grayed out value, this setting is locked and cannot be edited. Please just bear that in mind. To the left of the Edit menu, you will see the strokes list. This shows you all the paint strokes as well as what is selected. You can select the paint strokes in the list, or you can select them in the viewport. You can also use the up and down arrows to navigate the strokes. Now the strokes list shows the layer priority, and these layers can be rearranged by dragging them up and down in the list. You are also informed of the paint type, the paint mode, as well as the transfer blending modes between strokes. Stamps simply refers to the length of the stroke, and the range reflects the duration of the stroke. In my case, all the strokes are just visible on frame 1. Now to edit a stroke, just ensure that it is selected, and you can change any property that is not grayed out. For example, I'll select the blue stroke and change its brush to a hard square. I'll change the paint mode to wash and the blending to max lighten. So editing the stroke properties is pretty easy. Go ahead and experiment with a few more strokes to get the hang of it. So a little further on, I have edited the property of each stroke and changed the look entirely. I've also set each stroke to be the length of the sequence. Now, as the bottom buttons clearly point out, you can solo a selected stroke, you can hide all, reveal all, duplicate as well as delete selected strokes. You can also hide strokes by clicking on the eye icon. Now, in addition to editing the properties of a stroke, you can also grab the edit box and move it around. You get the usual 3 transformations such as position, scale, and rotate. So you can manipulate the objects how you want and get them into position. As a tip, pressing Shift-Alt and scaling any stroke will keep it in proportion. And like action, you can disable the edit box either using the button or pressing Ctrl-E. Now, since you can edit properties of a stroke, as well as adjust its transformations, it is possible to animate the transformations, brush size, and brush opacity. For example, select the red stroke in the list or on screen. Switch to the Animation menu and press Shift-Tab to focus on the selected channels. Let's animate a move on screen. Enable Auto key and go to frame 50. Select the X position channel and press Enter. This keyframes the current value. Now go to frame 1 and set the X position to -960. You may need to frame all the channels to see the curve. By the way, you can also create animation by moving the strokes in the viewport. When you scrub the time bar, you can see how the paint stroke has been animated. So this could be really useful for creating basic motion graphic elements. Please note that even though there is no direct access to tracking paint strokes, you can still track in another module and copy and paste the tracking data to the transformation channels. It is also possible to link the transformation channels with expressions. Disable Auto Key and ensure you are on frame 1 and exit the animation editor. So each stroke will appear in the animation editor, and you have the choice to animate it or not. Now I'd like to point out at this time that it is currently not possible to group strokes. So let's say you are touching up an area with clone and you are using quite a few brush strokes. It is not possible to paint all these strokes and then group them afterwards. However, you do have stroke consolidation, which does the same thing but in a slightly different workflow. Hide all the strokes for the moment and switch back to the paint menu. Let's say we want to clone a portion of the trees. So set the frame range to paint on the sequence and change the paint mode to clone. Hold Ctrl and click the clone source, followed by the clone destination. You can also size the brush by holding S and dragging the cursor. Now just before you start painting, click the Consolidate button. When you start cloning with as many brush strokes as you need, all the strokes will use the same properties while Consolidate is enabled. You will only get one brush stroke in the strokes list. This will also boost your system's performance because it is automatically combining multiple strokes into one. Once you're done, disable Consolidate and switch to the Edit menu. Click Reveal All to see all the hidden brush strokes. When you scrub the time bar, you'll see an issue as the animated brush stroke moves over the clone source. This is because the clone strokes are painted on top of the other strokes. To fix this issue, drag the top brush stroke to the bottom of the list. When you look at the result in the viewport, you can see that the clone strokes are applied first, followed by the motion graphic shapes. Here's a great tip for this sort of work. Even though you've already painted the clone strokes, you can adjust the clone source by dragging on the X and Y sliders next to the paint modes. Finally, I'd like to mention that if you want to clear the canvas, you click the Clear button. If you use the Wipe functionality, you are also creating an editable object in the strokes list. This will not delete the strokes, and the strokes will be rendered under the Wipe object. This can impact on your system's performance unnecessarily. So that's how you can edit as well as animate batch paint strokes after creating them. There are a few more surprises with batch paint, which will be revealed in an upcoming video. Be sure to check out the other features, workflows, and updates to the Flame 2018 products. Comments, feedback, and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the Flame Learning channel for future videos.